really quickly want to break down the last game between the Miami Heat and the Hawks without Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry. Not a series that was very memorable. Everybody was kind of waiting for it to just be done. The one thing I would say that was positive that came out of it was, I would say, DeAndre Hunter's 35-point performance last night, especially when I had taken his over 15.5 points. Didn't feel like much of a sweat. He was also, by the way, hurt the entire season. 3 separate injuries, one of which of those injuries was a back issue. So word to those out there with back issues, keeping them on the bench. Probably the best performance in his career. I saw way more offensive tools in his bag than we thought. Unfortunately, though, for Trae Young, The Athletic said it broke his spirit. That felt like, to me, sus journalism. I don't know how you can define that. Like, there's no way to I sat back in my couch and I was like, how can you say that? Can you say that? Like, how can you determine? Is there something that clicks when you look into someone's eyes and you're like, yep, their soul got snatched. Their spirit is broken. He did hit off the side of the backboard like a Paul George moment. I feel like that could be the moment where we all collectively say, this person's broken. This person's broken. First of all, Russell Westbrook? Okay, I'm here. I'm with you, Athletic. It first started with Paul George. Then it came out later. He was literally in the fetal position on the side of his bed in the hotel room in the bubble. Shout out to Paul George. Do not want to diminish any mental health issues, but these are facts. Secondarily, Russell Westbrook comes to LA. I mean, there's a montage of off the side of the backboard. We can all say dejected is probably a word one could use about his experience there emotionally. Trae Young, one shot, though, off the side of the backboard. Clamped. I think he had, what'd they say? 22 baskets in 5 games. Trae Young, again, 22 baskets in 5 games. Combined, 32 turnovers. 10 more turnovers than baskets. 1 shot off the side of the backboard. People are wondering whether Trae's reputation took a hit. Somebody says what they don't know. Needs to be an investigation on whether he's a dog and that card needs to be taken away. The article was about as damning as you can find on The Athletic. Not related to the Lakers, obviously. Those are the most damning. Trae apparently, in this article, they say, was so checked out in Game 5 that he didn't even participate. So there was a last-minute huddle, 5.6 seconds left on the clock. Hawks are down 3, so they needed 3 to tie. Save their fucking season. They're calling a play for Trae Young, apparently. Trae Young, not involved in said huddle. He's being obstructed by, I want to say, Danilo Gallinari and some other random. Maybe a Kungu, I forget. Anyway, he's not involved in the huddle, even aware of what's being drawn up on the little whiteboard. Then the play, you gotta go and Google it and see. It was a shit show. To not get a shot off, bizarre. For Trae Young not to even go for the ball whatsoever, another is a spirit broken moment, I guess. I mean, the play is just wild. Not even, because Danilo Gallinari ended up getting the ball there, like trapped in the corner, corner of hell where he was being just collapsed on by heat. Like, not even Danilo Gallinari's father runs that play for Danilo Gallinari. Like, no shot. And I don't know who it was for. Trae Young was 0 for 5 from the three-point line that night, so presumably Nate McMillan, when he says he was running it for Trae Young, might have been not telling the truth. Just unreal. Had to just kind of highlight that really fast because it was over a long time before they clawed back. Many people didn't watch that game, but it's worth noting. Article also highlights what an awful year Trae has had. Just optically, he told folks in the beginning of the year that the regular season was boring. And then he had to issue a statement like he's the WeWork chick. Like, hey, we're gonna need you. That was seen as anti-competitive. A lot of people in the Atlanta area might not want to show up to games if you're bored. Could you say you didn't mean that? Now people are questioning Trae. People are questioning the entire franchise. Mind you, this is the team that was like seconds away from going to the finals last year. If Trae Young doesn't sprain his ankle on a referee, like, who knows what ends up happening? I mean, Giannis was out multiple games with a hyperextended knee. Like, this is how the cookie crumbles, folks. Like, now you've got questions about John Collins, whether he wants to be here. He was hurt most of the year. That didn't help. Rumors of him being unhappy all year and the year prior don't help. Cam Reddish was a fucking disaster. He asked for a trade and then never got one until the deadline. And Nate McMillan's still playing him because he thinks there's like, that helps the chemistry, even though they're losing games with Cam Reddish in the lineup. Oh my God. And folks, we are now getting what is called the scapegoat, which is Nate McMillan is now being blamed. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Sports Illustrated reported the Hawks were walking around like Jordan at NBA Media Day in late September, then came out so flat Capella admitted that they were apathetic, and they say that falls on Nate. After losing 6 of 7 to start the new year, GM Travis Schlenk went ballistic and said there is no sense of urgency on this team to make a stop. There's no sense of accountability. I mean, you see when there's words, let me just peek behind the curtain for folks who don't understand media speak. When you hear words from a GM like leadership, accountability, lack of urgency, these are words directed, I swear to God, directed for words for the coach. Listen here, motherfucker, you better straighten up or you're out. Like, that is a PR move. Travis Schlenk, genius guy, by the way. He says, it's just not there. It doesn't bother them. I hope it's a switch that we can flip, but I don't know at this point. Earlier in the season, Travis Schlenk, little side road, said, I thought we should bring back all the players on the roster to make a run like we did last year. That was probably the wrong move. Yeah. Travis must be an oracle because that was exactly how they looked in the Heat series. Just no urgency, can't make a stop, no defensive presence. Trae Young, Ice Trae turns into ice cold. And in some ways, the Hawks probably the most disappointing team of the season this year. A lot of high expectations, a lot of low. I mean, and that's with the Nets. Like, we're talking about coming on. Just talked about the Nets getting swept by the Boston Celtics. So you have to go lower than that, and that's the Hawks. That's chaos, just absolute chaos. Remember, I said in the preseason, Hawks could be a top 4 team in the East. Boy, was I wrong. That's probably the coldest take of the season. Will Nate be back? I hope so. He was just extended, multi-year extension. This is why you don't extend these interim head coaches until you know. Because when they come back, and they take over in the middle of chaos and they overperform, very different situation than starting from scratch. Because players are ignited in the middle of a season. It's a change. You can't change coaches mid through the season every single year, but there is like a jump, a little like jolt. Spark is the right word. And that spark did not continue to persist throughout this season. When Trae Young's calling the regular season boring, I would say no spark. Somebody called Nate McMillan. They said, Nate McMillan's unimaginative. This is an unnamed source, obviously. And when things aren't going to plan, it's hard for him to make an adjustment. Could you imagine if Trae Young said that to some reporters? This motherfucker has no ability to get me opened. I'm in prison. I think he's getting buried a little bit here, truthfully. And he was called the general. In Portland, he was pretty bad. He's gotten better. He got them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, I must remind you that the Philadelphia Sixers did Sixer. They did Doc Rivers themselves out of the playoffs. And they might just fuck around and do it again. Wouldn't that be something? But if the Hawks struggle anymore moving forward, if they don't come out with a what's that called? The little stick with the flare. If they don't come out like there's a flare stick in their asshole, like Nate McMillan might be fired, like fast. And that's not because he deserves it. That's because that's how this business works. So he better take them to Hawaii or Cancun, go on a little team building trip like Jerry Buss did to Palm Springs, get them whatever they need to get themselves focused and back on track, because the NBA business is cold and it's cruel.